This is OwlUp, where learning happens in minutes, not hours. For a deeper journey, explore all our courses at owlup.co. Now, let's dive in. Welcome back to Chapter 2 of our series, Rebuilding Your Investment Confidence. In today's episode, titled Learning from Past Financial Failures, we'll explore how analyzing our financial missteps can turn them into valuable lessons. So, whether you've made a few blunders or just want to avoid common pitfalls, let's dive in. Most investors lose to the very market they're trying to beat, often by a couple of percentage points a year, because they panic after a loss. Today, we drop into that moment, the sinking feeling after a bad money decision, and explore how it can quietly become your biggest advantage. Losses don't just hurt your net worth, they scramble your judgment. After a setback, most people rush to make it back, double down on risk, or abandon a plan that was fine, except for one painful outcome. That instinct is human, but it's also exactly where serious investors quietly separate from the crowd. The pros don't trust their memories in these moments. They treat each mistake like a detailed case file. Dates, numbers, context, mindset, alternatives they ignored, signals they dismissed. Think of it as building your own personal black box recorder for money decisions, so you can replay what really happened rather than what your emotions now claim. In this episode, you'll start turning one specific financial failure into structured data, raw material for rules that protect your future self instead of punishing your past one. Most people replay money mistakes like a hazy, worst of highlights reel. I always mess up. I knew it. I'm just bad with investing. That loop feels honest, but it's mostly storytelling, not analysis. The numbers, timing, and context fade. The emotional headline stays. What actually helps your future decisions is zooming in, not out, pinpointing the exact fork in the road where your choice diverged from a calmer version of you. Was it a late-night scroll? A hot tip from a friend? A news alert? Those tiny, specific details are where better rules and more confidence quietly begin. When you strip away the drama around a bad financial outcome, what's left is surprisingly practical. A sequence of small, inspectable choices. That's what professionals obsess over. They don't just ask, "Why did I lose?" They ask, exactly which decision rules produced this outcome, and which constraints were missing. Look at Dalbar's finding that the average investor lags the S&P 500 by 1.5 to 3% a year. That gap isn't due to inferior IQ or lack of information, it's process error. People react to losses instead of having pre-committed rules for what to do when markets drop 10%, or when a single stock falls 25%, or when a headline blows up their conviction. Each gap between what my plan said and what I actually did is raw material for an upgraded rule. Concrete examples help. Buffett's Tesco loss wasn't just a bad stock pick. It exposed a blind spot in how much he trusted management's disclosures and how slowly he exited once red flags appeared. The lesson wasn't never buy grocers again, but tighten the thresholds that trigger a reevaluation of management quality and move faster when trust is broken. That's a rule you can encode. Knight Capital's meltdown wasn't, "We're unlucky with tech." It was, "We shipped untested code into a live trading environment." From that autopsy came checklists, staging environments, kill switches, operational guardrails that dramatically reduce the odds of repeating the same category of mistake. Dalio's near wipeout in 1982 led to something similar on the mental side. Explicit principles about being radically open to disconfirming evidence and stress-testing big macro calls with other smart people before betting the firm. Notice the pattern. None of these examples treat the failure as a verdict on identity. They treat it as a stress test of systems, risk limits, diversification rules, decision checklists, communication habits, and emotional safeguards. Your task is the same, just at a personal scale. Instead of asking, "How do I feel about this loss?" or "How do I make it back?" you start asking, "Which assumption turned out to be wrong? Where did I ignore or overweight certain information? What simple rule, if it had been in place, would have capped this loss or slowed me down. Like a developer adding robust error handling after a crash, you're not erasing the bug from history. You're making your entire codebase more resilient because it happened. Think of 3 chapters in the story of any bad investment: the setup, the trigger, and the aftermath. The setup is everything before money moved, where you heard about the idea, what was going on in your life, how quickly you decided. Maybe you'd had a promotion and felt unusually confident, or you were behind on a goal and felt pressure to catch up. Those context clues often matter more than the asset itself. The trigger is the precise moment you committed: the late-night buy click, the choice not to rebalance, the decision to ignore a deteriorating earnings trend. Here you're hunting for patterns in timing and inputs. Were you alone, rushed, half distracted, acting on a single chart or headline? The aftermath is what you did once the trade moved against you. Double down, freeze, or quietly delete the app for a while. Mapping these 3 chapters across a few past failures starts revealing your personal risk signature, predictable conditions under which you're most likely to break your own rules. AI tools will soon act less like fortune tellers and more like brutally honest training partners. After a trade goes sour, your app could auto-replay the sequence, news flow, your clicks, even how often you checked prices, and then generate small policy updates for your future self. It's like having a personal R&D lab for your behavior, quietly tuning your default settings so the next shock hits a sturdier version of you, not the one who made today's choices. Over time, this kind of honest replay turns your past into a custom training library. Each misstep becomes like a marked trail on a hiking map: steep cliff here, loose gravel there. You're not chasing certainty, you're building familiarity with your own patterns. That familiarity is what restores confidence, not because you'll stop stumbling, but because you'll stop stumbling the same way twice. Before next week, ask yourself, where did I ignore early warning signs the last time I overspent, like justifying a one-time purchase or avoiding checking my balance? And where are those exact same signs quietly showing up in my life right now? If I replay my biggest money mistake step by step, at which exact moment could I have made a different choice? And how can I pre-plan what I'll do differently the next time that same moment appears? For example, when I'm tired, emotional, or scrolling late at night. Looking at this week's calendar and bank app together, which specific situation, a social event, online sale, or recurring subscription, is most likely to trigger old habits? And what concrete boundary or rule will I decide on today so future me doesn't have to decide in the heat of the moment? This was OwlUp, your daily step forward. This series continues with more chapters on OwlUp.co. Visit OwlUp.co to access the complete course and continue your learning journey. See you there!